Welcome to our Jesse Tree devotion for December 7th. We again are reading from the Unwrapping the Greatest Gift by Anne Voskamp as we do our Jesse Tree behind us. Today's ornament for the Jesse Tree is this, and it's called Here I Am. Today's reading from Genesis 22, 1-2, 6, 11 to 14. God tested Abraham's faith. God said to him, "Abraham," and he answered, "Here I am." Then God said, "Take your only son Isaac, the son you love, and go to the land of Moriah, and kill him there, and offer him as a whole burnt offering on one of the mountains I will tell you about." Abram took the wood for the sacrifice and gave it to his son to carry, but he himself took the knife and the fire. So he and his son went on together. But the angel of the Lord called to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham!" And Abraham answered, "Yes." The angel said, "Don't kill your son or hurt him in any way. Now I can see that you trust God and that you have not kept your son, your only son, from me." Then Abraham looked up and saw a male sheep caught in a bush by its horns. So Abraham went and took the sheep and killed it and offered it as a whole burnt offering to God, and his son was saved. So Abraham named the place "The Lord Provides." And even today people say, "On the mountain of the Lord it will be provided." Our devotion. Long ago, people built altars. Just stacks of wooden sticks, and laid lambs on the altar as a sacrifice, as a love gift to God. But over time, people forgot about the one real God's love. They made up fake gods and said to their angry gods, didn't want a lamb as a gift on the altar, but demanded children instead. Can you imagine? For years, people hoped there was a real God somewhere who would come and tell them to stop sacrificing their children on the altar. And one day, the real God came and called Abraham. And Abraham said, "Here I am." And God said, "You know that very own son of yours, whom you love with your whole, huge, soft heart? Come sacrifice him as a present to me. On the altar of a mountain I will show you." And Abraham nodded a slow yes. Lay his very own miraculous child down on an altar, kill him as a sacrifice, a present to God. Abraham didn't argue. He didn't complain. He didn't rage. The only thing Abraham said to God was, "Here I am." When you say those words, "Here I am," it's another way of saying another three words. I love you. And Abraham could feel God's love all around him. He could feel it just like the air. God's love was everywhere. Abraham trusted God. Trusted that God's love would be like air and fill his lungs and fill his hurting places and keep his whole, huge, soft heart beating brave. He trusted that God would provide another way if he would just obey. And early the next morning, Abraham called Isaac, and together they followed God up a mountain. In Abram's hand was a knife, on Isaac's back was the wood. "But Dad," Isaac said, turning. Where is the lamb for the sacrifice, for the love gifts? Abraham breathed in deep, filled his lungs, and then he exhaled what he believed. God will provide us with the lamb for the sacrifice, the present. Worry is always belief gone wrong. Because you don't believe that God will get it right. Peace is belief that exhales. Because you believe that God's love is everywhere, like air. So Abraham stacked the wood. He made an altar, a place for a gift, and Abraham laid his very own miraculous child down on the altar, and then his fingers gripped tight around the knife because it was time to obey God. And he thought his whole huge, soft heart might break. But he took a deep breath, lifted the glinting, sharp edge of the knife over the child, and Abraham! Abraham! The one real God interrupted everything, and Abraham exhaled relief. Here I am. He said what he always said to God, said those 3 words, just as if he was saying the other 3 words to God. I love you. Stop, God said. You were willing to give me your own love gift, your only son. But the one real God hoped to show the world that God wanted all God's miraculous children to be living presents to God, to be living sacrifices, living gifts. The one real God wanted all God's children to say every day to him, to people in need, those 3 words. Here I am. Which is another way of saying those other 3 words. I love you. And there in the thicket, a ram bleated. Abraham picked it up, just like picking up a present, and he laid the ram on the altar. Everywhere, God provides presents. Just like many years later, God's own miraculous son would carry a wooden cross up a hill to be our very own lamb, the most precious present to the whole world. The whole world is breathing in air right now, breathing in the love of God. And so we place our bleeding ram on our tree. Your thought. What would it look like for you to trust God with your whole heart? And then your activity. Make a list of 10 different ways God has provided for you. Put the piece of paper under your Jesse tree as a reminder that God is your provider. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we'll see you again tomorrow for December 8th devotion.